I want to bring in retired Lieutenant General H.R. McMaster. He is a CBS News contributor who formerly served as National Security Advisor during the first Trump administration. So appreciate you being with us today. I want to ask you, I mean, President Trump has said multiple times, the Iranian military is decimated, but we are seeing these little skirmishes, these attacks still happen. So in your professional opinion, what is the state of the Iranian military?
Well, hey, Kelly and Vlad, great to be with you. It's in a terrible state, Kelly and Vlad. And I think what you're seeing now is the regime, just trying to continue to disrupt the shipping. And of course, there's been this, statement that, hey, we're not escorting it. It's really a de facto escort. And this is how you're going to see it beginning. You see a couple of ships, a few more ships. They're moving underneath this umbrella, an air cap. You have attack helicopters, which were probably the systems that were used to destroy those 6 boats. But Iran cannot sustain that massive volume of the missile drone strike complex from the beginning of the war. And I think what they're trying to do now is to, they're following American public opinion really closely, and they're hoping that the negotiating team will cave on their demands, demanding enrichment, demanding some maybe vestige of control over the Strait of Hormuz, and to be able to build back up those military capabilities to threaten their neighbors and to threaten shipping in the Gulf. So,
General, as you know, a military that has been decimated, or even one that is smaller in size and less capable than a superpower like the United States, can still do a lot of damage, whether it's at the Battle of Trenton or whether it's during the Tet Offensive, right? I mean, that can still happen. So when we talk about decimation, is the fact that Iran is still able to launch even small types of attacks that could still do a lot of damage, can still kill American sailors, Marines, Coast Guardsmen. How should we think about that when we think about victory in terms of this war ending?
Hey, Vlad, there's no such thing as an easy war, right? I think people confuse a raid, which is a military operation of limited purpose, short duration, and planned withdrawal, and a war, which aims to achieve a sustainable political outcome. And the outcome that we want here is to block Iran's path to a nuclear weapon, but they're still in the negotiations saying, well, maybe if we only enrich to this percent and so forth. And they clearly still want to pursue a nuclear weapon. The objective going in was to ensure that Iran no longer can pose the kind of threat we've seen them pose to their neighbors, and that they stop their support for terrorist organizations who have caused so much havoc and suffering and loss of life in the region, including the October 7th attacks against Israel and what came after that. So Vlad, it really, these are pretty ambitious objectives. And what it's going to take, Vlad, is to convince the Iranian regime that they've been defeated, to be able to sign up for that kind of a program.
I want to go back to something that you said earlier in the first question, this idea about public perception, right, of the war and public approval of it. There's a CBS News poll. It shows that 64% of Americans disapprove of how the president is handling the war. What role do you think that is going to play? Is there anything that the public opinion could do to sort of push it to the end? Or conversely, do you think if there is a quote unquote successful end to the war, that it would actually change public opinion about the president's handling of this?
Yeah, Kelly, I think a more consistent message, would be super helpful in terms of public opinion and a better understanding of the reality. I mean, Kelly, I believe there's a huge gap, a chasm between the predominant reporting in the Western media of the situation, like the state of the Iranian military, for example, and the reality of the Iranian military really being crushed here in terms of their ability to sustain the kind of onslaught you saw at the beginning of the war. The oppressive arms of the regime are considerably weakened. And hey, look at their leadership, look at their industrial base to be able to regenerate some of these capabilities. So I think part of it is a fundamental misunderstanding of the outcome of that military campaign at the outset of this phase of the war. The second thing that's missing, Kelly, I think, is the context. I just saw the reporting from Israel. Hey, the U.S. initiated the war, and from my view, the Iranians initiated this war in 1979. And so it's important, I think, to understand the importance of achieving this outcome to end this war. And as I've mentioned with you guys before, I really, frankly, don't think it ends fully to a sustainable peace for the region, for U.S. interests in the region and safety of the Iranian people until there is a fundamental change in the nature of that regime. And this guy, the IRGC leadership that's up there, with their threats, and this guy Ghalibaf, there really needs to be a further change in the leadership.
All right. Well, H.R. McMaster, always appreciate your perspective and coming on with us.
Hey, thank you, Kelly. Thanks, Vlad.
Thank you, sir.